In 1985 and again in 1987, Raymond spoke about Perry Mason with Charlie Rose, who was then hosting CBS Night Watch. These interviews were to promote the return of Perry Mason in the 2-hour movie format.
That music signaled the beginning of an hour of unfailing justice. Right was done every night, just in the nick of time. Perry Mason never rested. The show went on the air in 1957, and after a 9-year run, it went into syndication. Now, Raymond Burr is recreating the role of Perry Mason for a new 2-hour movie, The Return of Perry Mason. It airs in December, and we are pleased to have Raymond Burr join us now. What a pleasure it is to have you here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm a great fan of this show.
Thank you very much on behalf of all those people who watch it. Why is it coming back?
Well, we never had the opportunity of doing a 2-hour show, and I always wanted to. All of Mr. Gardner's books had to be oversimplified to get the whole story into an hour's time. And I always wanted to do a 2-hour show for that reason.
And so Perry Mason comes back because Della is in trouble.
That's right. That's
Della,
right.
Can I give it away? I mean, she's on trial for...
She's on trial for murder, and,
Yeah.
and she has become an executive assistant to a big industrialist whom she's accused of murdering. Perry Mason has become a judge, an appellate court judge, and he has to resign that in order to defend her. So we don't dwell on those two things very much. We dwell on the case. And, however, we do have 2 hours that tells you a little bit more about Mason and tells you certainly a good deal more about Della Street.
And what's happened to him in the interim, or more about the nature of the man and his character?
The nature of the people involved in the show.
What was the magic of it? Why did it work so well?
I think because the audiences wanted to believe in our form of justice, our court system. It's imperfect, but it's still the best in the world.
And then in the end, justice will out. So
yes, it was even an important show in foreign countries where they had the Napoleonic criminal code as opposed to the Anglo-Saxon code. And some of the shows that were done in the United States, Perry Mason and the Defenders and shows like that, helped change the law in some of those countries.
It was good without having car chases and shootings and violence. It was the drama, the human drama of characters you liked in conflict.
You saw the results of violence mostly on the show, very little violence, if any. We will have mostly that in the 2-hour show. There is no gratuitous violence of any kind in the show. There is some excitement.
It must be more than just justice. I mean, the character itself. People must have liked Perry Mason. I mean, you've got to have an anchor there that people like.
Well, we worked. Those days were the beginnings of television's hours, hour dramas. And when we started the show, there were very few hour dramas. We had come from live television, Playhouse 90 and Climax and those shows, mostly introduced by CBS. And then the news shows started, Lux Radio and Hallmark Playhouse and all of those. And then the hour dramas. So no one really knew where they would go or whether they would be successful. And that came just at the right time, I guess.
You had a reputation for being a prodigious worker. You lived on the set.
Well, unfortunately, there were those many words in each show to learn, and you couldn't do it by living apart from the studio. It was a great success, the show. We went on for 9 years. I thought it was 2 years too many.
You wanted to quit 2 years earlier?
Oh, I wanted to quit at the end of 5 years.
It went 9. You wanted to quit at 5. You thought it should have been over after 7.
Absolutely.
Because?
You start losing qualities on the show. You start losing your best writers after 5 years. It's very rare that a show can continue on unless it has an integrated part of the cast who also works on the show, like writing, like was done in MASH, for instance. MASH continued on for all those years because of the dedication and, you know, with a great degree of excellence. The shows that are on today that are the best shows have that dedication from all departments in the shows.
Commitment to excellence.
That's right.
You know, and you don't get it.
You have it on your show. That's why I watch it all the time.
Well, thanks very much. Back in a moment. Raymond Burr, stay with us. Raymond Burr is with us now in Washington, and what a pleasure it is to have you back, sir.
It's a pleasure to be with you, I'll tell you.
So we got another movie. The last one was so successful. It was what, the most watched television movie of the year?
We did 5. This is we just finished the 7th one.
Right.
No, The Case of the Murdered Madam was the 6th. So we did 5 in the 2-year period, then we're doing 4 this year.
And they've all done incredibly.
They've all beat everything else on on their time slots.
You prefer the longer form because what?
Oh, yes. You can, we found out that Della Street lived in a house and could garden and could cook. You never saw her cook in all the 9 years we did a show. Find out that Perry Mason possibly might have a sense of humor, you know, and those kind of
You never
things.
had time for that in a
Never
novel.
had time for it. Never, and we find out also that maybe there is more than hanky-panky going on between Della and Perry. Yeah, so we never had time for that either.
Yeah.
Time for just the 1-hour show.
Is the audience reacting differently? Do they say, my God, I love I mean, what's the feedback you get?
Charlie, the most important thing to me was everybody said, did you expect the kind of a reaction you got on the first show? I expected us to be moderately successful. Not immeasurably successful as we were, because that demanded that at least a third of the audience be young people and not only tune in but stay tuned in, and they have since they're
people who had not necessarily seen the 57 show.
No.
Yeah.
So,
how do you explain the success? What is it that
people
makes it?
still want to? They are taking a measure of their form of justice as sure as anything, and they like the idea of, everybody likes the idea of a white knight, you know, riding to the rescue. But with across this country and indeed in foreign countries, it's the most successful show of its kind ever.
In syndication.
Yes, I was in Cannes this last year. It was my first kind of trip to that milieu. And we are the #1 show of any dramatic show that goes from the United States this last year.
But there's got to be more to it than just the fact that it is life and death, it is courtroom drama. I mean, there is something special. It's part of you, but it's also part of the Perry Mason persona. I mean, what is it that makes it uniquely successful when there are other competing dramas about lawyers?
Well, I think it was the first one, #1. When we went on the air in '57, none of the minorities were represented really in the courts, or didn't know that they were. And this was a great education for the American people. Not only our show, but all the shows that came after. But the Oriental people, the Hispanics, the black people, it all became their show.
Why?
Because they could see that this was a country that the justice system is imperfect in our country because it's dealt with by human beings who are imperfect. But it's still the best damn one that we have in the country, in the world, by far.
Our justice system.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you read this book, Presumed Innocent?
Yes, I'm in the middle of it right now.
Because it's a fascinating look at American justice and the notion of deals being made and a sense of the corruption of American justice.
Oh, there is that.
There is that because now that we get ourselves, wait till we get into the next century. I think there's a lot more going to be involved with the new electronics than we've had in courtrooms before.
Not just televising the courtroom, but using...
No. Using the whole courtroom. I support a college of law in Sacramento called McGeorge, and it's one of the finest law schools in the United States. I did a commencement address, 27 years there, and we graduated 14 lawyers that day in an open field because they didn't have any commencement hall, all right? Last year, they graduated almost 800 students, and they had 7,000 in the audience. And
800 students?
Almost 800.
Yeah. 800 lawyers out.
Yes. But all marvelous lawyers. And what it has is the biggest group of students per capita in the law schools passing the bar. Now, the interest in during that period of time, during the 25 years, they started what was called the courtroom of the future, and we built the courtroom. I was part of it. I did a whole film on it. It was done circular, where the jury sits with its back to the spectator section. There's absolute security for everything. There's a television set in front of every one of the jurors and every one of the principal people that shows them evidence close-ups and certain aspects. It's a marvelous system and is used as a courtroom. And all the new courtrooms in the United States have sent word, want to take a look at that courtroom. Yeah. So by the time we get to the year 2000, you're going to see a lot of changes within the courtroom systems. We need to because we are more populous and we have more cases and
we're our litigious society.
Yes.